Hey everyone, Sean Watasa here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be covering ThirdWeb's new Connect SDK. We'll take a look at the new SDK, we'll look at some of the benchmarks and features compared to other popular Web3 libraries, and we'll jump into some code and build out our very own NFT claiming app. So just a quick overview and breakdown of what we're going to be covering in this video. All the timestamps will be down in the description below. We'll take a look at the new Connect SDK from ThirdWeb. We'll take a look at some of the features and comparisons between the Connect SDK and other popular Web3 libraries. We'll also run some benchmarks and we can see just how fast the Connect SDK is. Then we'll deploy our very own smart contract. We'll deploy an ERC 721 NFT contract. Then we'll build our very own next project and build a simple claim application to claim that NFT from the contract we just deployed. So with all of that said, let's jump on the computer here and let's take a look at the new Connect SDK. So right here, I am on the Connect SDK documentations, but in the Connect SDK, I did want to just go over a quick overview. Now we did do a video not too long ago that went over some of the features and everything of the Connect SDK. And in this video, we want to cover the same thing, show you some features and benchmarks, actually run some benchmarks so we can look at the differences between some popular Web3 libraries and just show you how easy it is to start building Web3 applications with the Connect SDK. So you can see here the design principles. It's a single package. Our performance has been optimized. So compared to our previous SDK, this new version is optimized. It performs a lot quicker. And again, we'll take a look at that in the benchmarks that we run. We have vertical integration. So we get access to things like our infrastructure, IPFS, we have RPCs, we have wallets you can use. And really with ThirdWeb, we offer a full stack development platform where you can build everything for your application from the front end to the back end to even the contracts on chain. An overview of developer experience. This SDK is type safe. It's very simple to use and it has very repeatable and predictable patterns. As we go into building our Web3 application, we'll kind of cover some of these things. And one of the big things we introduce is its interoperability with other popular libraries like Viem and Ethers. So we're not going to go into the installation or getting started yet. We'll go into that in just a bit. But let's take a look at the features and come over here on the side. You can see a features comparison chart where we compare ThirdWeb to other popular Web3 libraries. You can see here what ThirdWeb has to offer. You can see what other libraries have to offer as well. Some of them do offer a lot of the same things, but through third parties. And you can see and compare exactly what you can get with ThirdWeb and what you get with the other libraries as well. If you take a look at our bundle size, you can see this is an example of bundle size to perform a simple RPC call on mainnet. And you can see here, ThirdWeb, we have it at 4.63, Viem at 3.78, and you then have Ethers here, which is at 88. Next, we have some runtime benchmarks for encoding, RPC calls, reading contract states, and sending a transaction. So you can see here, these are some of the numbers, but this is actually the benchmark that we're going to run, and you can run this yourself as well. You can see down here, you can run your own benchmarks to see the results and details. You can click on this link here. It'll bring you to a repo where you can go ahead and clone this repo and run the benchmarks yourself on your own device. So I'm opening up my terminal here, and I'm just going to open up the folder that I have this clone to, which is benchmarks. Then we're going to change into the packages/ThirdWeb. And again, all of these instructions are within the repo, so you can run it yourself. And then we're going to run npm benchmark compare. Now, before I run that, just to quickly go over the benchmarks, if you want to run it yourself, you can go ahead and run this. You will need things like Bun and Anvil installed. So we add links down here for you to go ahead and install that. And you can see here, all you need to do is install the dependencies, change into that package's ThirdWeb, and then run the benchmark. So right over here, let's run this. And there you go. You can see the benchmarks we just ran. So let's just scroll up here and take a quick look at them. You can see here, these are the benchmarks for encoding a transaction here. We have ThirdWeb, Ethers, and Viem. You can see when it comes to, I believe this is warm cache, you can see that ThirdWeb runs about 3.2 times faster than Viem, 13.7 times faster than Ethers. We also have for code cache as well. We have for RPC calls here. You can see we're about the same as Viem here. And this is for batching disabled. When batching is enabled, we're about the same across the board. Down here, we have the benchmarks for read contracts. You can see much faster than Ethers here. And we also have for sending transactions. So you can see and compare those numbers as well. When it comes to the new Connect SDK, much faster than our previous ThirdwebProvider SDK version. And it's comparable, if not faster, than some of the other popular Web3 libraries out there. So again, if you want to run these benchmarks for yourself on your own device, you can just head on over to the repo. We'll link the repo separately down in the description below, or if you are in the docs, in the features and benchmarks section at the very bottom, you can just click on this link to check out the instructions to run the benchmarks yourself. But now that we've taken a look at some of the performance benchmarks of the Connect SDK, how do you start actually building Web3 applications with it? So I'm gonna head back to my terminal here. Let me just exit out of here. Let's clear this. And let's create ourselves a new next project. And we'll just call this example Web3 here. So I'm going to create a new next app. Now for this next app here, we are going to use TypeScript. I'm going to say no to ESLint, no to Tailwind, yes to source directory, and yes to app router. And then I'll say no to customizing the default import alias. We'll create a blank brand new next project here. We'll import and we'll install ThirdWeb. And then we'll start building out some of the basic functionalities of a Web3 application. So let's change into our example Web3 here, and we'll open this up in our code editor. All right, so in our project here, let's take a look at the documentations. So let's come back to the overview here, and let's go through the installation process here. So in order to install, all we need to do is run npm install thirdweb. Because it is in beta as of running this video, we do have to add the @beta at the end. Once this moves out of beta, you'll just have to run npm install thirdweb. But we'll get that, copy that right there. We'll come on over to our terminal. So in my example Web3 folder here, I'm just going to run npm install thirdweb @beta. All right, and once that's done, we will head back into the docs here. And the first two things that we're going to set up is something called the client and chain here. Now, these two things are going to be used quite a bit throughout building out your Web3 application. And in here, you can see right here, all we need to do is create a client. Now, depending on whether you are creating something client-side or server-side, you'll have to either provide a client ID or your secret key. And we'll go over how to get this through your ThirdWeb API key. So what we'll do here is coming back to my code editor here, I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this utils folder. And in there, we're going to add a file and call this constants. And we'll just store our .ts. And we'll store our chain and client in here. So let's create our client first. So we're going to export our constant called client. And if we take a look back at our docs here, you can see here, we can use the create thirdweb client here and provide it with our client ID. So we'll say create thirdweb client. And then we need to get our client ID. Let's import to create the thirdweb client. So come here, import that from thirdweb. And then again, yes, we need to get our client ID. Now we're going to store our client ID in a .env file for this. So in my file directory here, I'm going to create a new file, put .env. And in here, we're going to store this in process.env.next public thirdweb client ID. And then this will be a string. And we're going to save that. And in our .env file, we're going to add this variable here. Let me just zoom in just a bit. And again, we get this client ID from our ThirdWeb API. Now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to head on over to ThirdWeb's dashboard. And once you're on ThirdWeb's dashboard here, we're going to connect our wallet. Once our wallet is connected, we'll head on over to the settings tab. And under your settings tab, you're going to have API keys. Now you can create your ThirdWeb API key here. All you need to do is hit create API key. We'll name this. So I'm just going to call this Connect SDK. And then you can put in your allowed domains. For this tutorial and example, I'm just going to allow all domains here. But in your case, you would put in the domains that you'll be using your API keys on. We'll hit next. We'll hit proceed. You'll then be given a secret key, which you can copy and store on the side. Now you only get given this secret key one time, so you do want to make sure you store it safely somewhere. So you just need to confirm that and then hit complete. And there you go, you'll have your new API key set. Now, when you click into it, you can set your API keys. We have different restrictions and services that you can add on. So you can see restrictions, you can add in the domains and bundle IDs. This is for things like mobile development or game development. And then you can turn on services here from storage, RPC, embedded wallets, account abstraction, checkouts, and pay. But head on over back to my API keys. I'll copy my client ID here, head back to my code editor and paste that in the .env file. So there you go. We just created our client. So we take a look back at the documentation here. We created a client. Again, we're going to be using this throughout our Web3 application here. The next thing we need to do is set up the chain. Now this is going to define what chain we want our application to work with. Now there's a few ways you can do this. You can use the define chain here and provide it with the chain ID of the chain that you want to utilize. We have some predefined popular chains like Base, Polygon, Ethereum mainnet, and you can export that from the ThirdWeb's chain entry point here. And you can just set your chain and then put whatever popular chain that you have used, or you can configure your own chain. And this one here, you can use the define chain here, but you can provide it with things like the chain ID, the RPC you want to use, the block explorer you want to use, the native currency that's used on that chain. And you can, again, customize and put in your own chain here. We're just going to use this first one here using define chain, and we're going to provide it with a chain ID. So coming here, we're going to come back to our code editor. We're going to export a constant here called chain. And this is going to be use define chain again, and we're going to provide it with the chain ID. Now for this tutorial here, I'm going to use Mumbai. So that is 80,001. And there we go. I now have the chain here that I can use throughout my application. And that is going to connect us and define that we are using the Mumbai network here. So coming back to the documentations, we set up our client and chain. Now what we need to do is take a look at the React SDK here. So the React SDK, the first thing we need to do is set up something called our ThirdwebProvider. Now the ThirdwebProvider, we're going to wrap our application with this, and this is going to allow us to use some other components and hooks from ThirdWeb. This includes things like a connect button where we can connect a user's wallet to our application. So we can see here, we just need to wrap our application with the ThirdwebProvider and provide it with our client. Now coming to back to our code editor here, I'm going to, in our sources folder, in our app folder here, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name this thirdweb.ts. And in this thirdweb.ts file, I'm going to specify and say up here, we're going to use client. And this is so that we can specify that the components that we export from here are going to be able to be used client side. So we're going to say export. We're going to say export ThirdwebProvider from thirdweb/React. Then we can come to our layout page here. And in our layout page, we are going to wrap the children here with our ThirdwebProvider. So let's just come down here. And we can say here, we're going to say ThirdwebProvider. We'll just cut and paste the children inside here. Now, ThirdwebProvider, we are going to import this from our ThirdWeb file that we just created. Again, that way it is tagged with the use client here. And in here, we need to provide the ThirdwebProvider with a client. And that client, we are going to provide it with our client variable that we stored in our constants file. And that sets up the ThirdwebProvider here. And now our application can use ThirdWeb's SDK for the components, like again, the connect button that we're going to go over. And we can use some of the hooks, the React hooks that are supplied to us as well. So now that we have the ThirdwebProvider set up, let's add a connect button to connect a wallet. So you can see here, connecting wallets, we can use components. So we can use the connect button, which is a button, or we can use connect embed, which will just show the open modal of which wallet a user can connect with. We're going to use a connect button here for this use case. So I'm going to come back to my code editor here, and we're going to come over to our files, and we're going to go to the page.tsx file. Now this here is the boilerplate code that you get with a new Next project. Let's actually just run this here. So let's run yarn dev. Let's take a look at this here. There you go. You can see that's our new Next project here. So I'm going to come back here. I'm actually going to delete everything within this div that has the styles of description. So Deleting all of this. I should only have a main tag with a div tag inside. I'm going to get rid of that class name though and just give it some styles of my own and just say text align and just say center. So we'll just center everything in here. And in there, I'm going to add a connect button. Again, this connect button is a UI component from the SDK. And in this connect button, we can set the chain. And this chain is going to be set to the chain variable that we stored in our constants. And that way we can say, hey, if when a user connects a wallet, they have to be connected to the chain that we support. So if I come back to my app here really quick, let's see, only works with client components, sorry. We are going to make sure that in thirdweb.ts, we also export the connect button here. And then we'll come back to our pages.tsx, and this should be imported from that thirdweb file. So .app.thirdweb. There we go. So we can see here we have a connect wallet button. If I click on it, it gives me the options to connect in to our application with different methods, email and social. This is our embedded wallet. You can use MetaMask, Coinbase Wallet, Wallet Connect, Rainbow, and we have Zerion Wallet here. So let's just connect with our MetaMask wallet. There you go, I'm connected. You can see I am connected to the Mumbai chain. And let's say we were connected to a different chain. So let me switch my wallet's chain here. I'm gonna switch it just to Ethereum mainnet. You can see on here now our connect wallet button, even though we are connected, has a switch network button. The user just needs to click on that. They're prompted to switch to the network that we are supporting within our application. There you go, switches them over to the proper chain, which in this case is the Mumbai network. So we went through a basic setup on how to set up a new Next project utilizing App Router with the new Connect SDK. We also added a Connect Wallet button so a user can connect their wallet to our application. So the next thing we're going to do is let's start actually building a Web3 application out. Let's just build a simple NFT claim where we add a button on top of our application that allows a user to claim an NFT. So the first thing we're going to do here is deploy ourselves a contract. So we'll come back to the dashboard here and we're going to head on over to the contracts tab and we're going to deploy ourselves a contract. We're going to deploy an NFT drop contract. Now this is an ERC 721A standard contract and the drop indicates that it is a claimable drop. Now we're just going to make it free to claim for anyone to claim. We're not going to add any cost or anything to this. But we're going to deploy this contract here. So I'm going to hit deploy now. We'll just say Connect SDK NFT. We'll just give it the symbol of SDK. You can add your description and image. At the very bottom here, you can select the network or chain that you want to deploy your smart contract to. And with this, you can select any EVM compatible blockchain to deploy your contracts to. We support all of them. And in this case, I'm going to use Mumbai and I'm going to hit deploy now. Just going to confirm that transaction to deploy our contract. We'll then sign the signature request to add it to our dashboard. And once that has been successfully deployed, we'll be brought to our contract dashboard here. Now in our contract dashboard, let's go ahead and first upload the NFTs that we want to be able to be claimed from our contract. So in the left-hand navigation here, we'll go to NFTs. We're going to go to batch upload here. I have some metadata of some NFTs here that I'm going to upload. So I'll just click and drag them in. You can see these are NFTs here with the traits and description and name. And I'm going to just hit next. We're going to do a simple reveal upon the mint and upload those NFTs. We'll hit confirm to save that there and lazy mint our NFTs to our contract. Once our NFTs have been lazy minted, you can see them all right over here. We need to set up the claim conditions. So we need to set up some of the requirements that we want to set for these NFTs to be claimed. I'm going to head over to the claim condition tab here. And I'm going to add a phase and we're going to add a public phase. And we're not going to charge anything for this NFT. We're not going to set any limits. We're just going to make it free to claim just so we can add it into our Web3 application to make an easy claim to demonstrate how everything works. So I'm going to just save this claim condition here. We'll confirm that transaction to save it. And there you go. We now have our NFT smart contract deployed and ready. We can now use this contract within our application, create a button for it, and allow users to claim NFTs. So coming back to my code editor here, we're going to now get that contract and store it in, we're going to store it in this constants folder here, and we're going to be able to use that contract throughout our application. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to, we'll just store the contract address here. So let me get the contract address of our NFT smart contract. We're going to store that right here. And then if we take a look back at our documentations here and we take a look at the overview. So we got our client, we got our chain. How do we get a smart contract? So right over here, we can look on how we can create a wrapper around our smart contract. And then we'll be able to utilize this smart contract from interacting with it to, this includes reading data from it, read functions, and also being able to write and execute functions on top of the smart contract as well. And all we're going to use is the get contract here. We provide it with our client, the contract address, and the chain that the contract is on. So coming over here, we're going to export our contract. And again, we're going to use the get contract. Oops. We're going to provide it with the client, which in this case is going to be the client that we created up here. We're going to give it the contract address, which is going to be our contract address that we stored right over here. And then we can give it the chain, which is the chain that we provided right over here. Now, if we look at the documentation here, you can see optional here, we can add the contract ABI. Now, if you're using a ThirdWeb pre-deployed contract like we just did with the NFT drop, you don't have to provide this ABI here. But if you did deploy, say, your own custom contract, you can just copy your ABI and provide it right down here when you get your contract, and then you'll be able to call the functions by name when interacting with your contract. So there you go. We now have our contract. We can now use this throughout our application when we want to interact with our NFT contract. Now let's build out a component here that will allow us to claim these NFTs. So in my files here, I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this components. And in that components folder, I am going to create a new component called the NFT claim.tsx. And we're going to preference this at the top with use client. And we are going to export our NFT claim here. And our NFT claim will return, and we'll create that component to claim our NFT. So let's take a look here at the React documentations. Under UI components, we have something called a transaction button. The transaction button will create a component for us that has a button here. We can label the button, and we need to just provide it with the transaction. Now, what is the transaction? If we take a look at transactions here, you can create your very own read contracts here if you need to read variables or get a read function from your contract, and you can prepare and execute transactions right here. Now, what we did was we deployed a pre-built contract from ThirdWeb. So if we take a look at the extensions here, we actually have built-in extensions for ERC20, 721, and 1155. And this means that we don't need to create our own transactions, but instead we can just call the functions directly here using these extensions. So the extension that we're going to call from the ERC 721 is the claim2 extension. And that's going to allow us to call the claim function from our smart contract. So in this NFT claim here, let's just create a div. And in that div, we're going to create a transaction button. And this transaction button is going to say claim NFT. So if I save that there, let's add this NFT claim into our pages here. So under our connect button, let's just add a title here, say claim NFT. We'll give it some margin. We'll then create a div here, give this div some margin on the top as well. And then we're going to add our NFT claim component right over here. So if I take a look back at our application, you can see now we have a title here that says claim NFT test, and we have a claim button. Now the claim button is not going to do anything because we haven't set the transaction for that yet. So if we come back here and we go back to our NFT claim component, we need to create the transaction here. Now this transaction, what we're going to do is, again, use the extensions to call the claim2 function. So we can call the claim2 function here. And we're going to import this here. So we're going to import claim2 from thirdweb / extensions / and then ERC 721, because again, we deployed ourselves an ERC 721 NFT contract. Now the claim2 function here, if we look, takes our contract, the address we are sending the NFT to, and the quantity that we're sending. So the first thing we need to do is get our contract, and our contract will be our contract that we stored in our contents file. Then we need to get the address. Now we can get the address from our connected wallet by using a hook from the SDK here. So if we take a look at our React and we look at hooks here, if we look at wallet connection, we can use active account, and this is going to give us back the account that is connected to our application, and we can get our wallet address from there. So coming back here, we can get our account using the use active account, and use active account is going to then, we'll say D2 is going to be set to the account dot address, and that's going to be the address of the connected wallet to our account here. And then we're going to set the quantity, and the quantity is going to be a big integer. So we're going to say, big int, and we're only going to claim 1 when someone presses the button. So we'll set that to 1 here. And that is our transaction button. So the transaction button, when we click it, is going to run this transaction here, which is going to call the claim2 function from our ERC 721 contract. Again, we're using that extension right up here. We're going to provide it what contract it's interacting with, who it's sending the NFT to, and the quantity that is being claimed. The next thing we're going to set is the wait for receipt. So what wait for receipt is going to do is it is going to wait for the transaction receipt after sending the transaction, meaning that we want to wait and make sure that the transaction actually gets sent through on the blockchain. We can also set errors. So on error here, if there is an error, we can do something like alert what the error is, or we can log the error. And then on receipt, so when we do get the receipt, what we can do is we can say, hey, alert that the NFT was claimed. So we can just say alert NFT was claimed, and that will notify us that the transaction has gone through. So right over here, if we come back to our application, you can see nothing's really changed with our claim button. But now if I hit claim NFT, you can see now it's actually going to call that function claim2 from our contract. We're going to get a transaction that pops up right here in our MetaMask. I can hit confirm. This is going to wait for that transaction to be executed on the blockchain. Once it does, you can see here NFT has been claimed. If I come back to my contract and we look at our NFTs, you can see here one has been claimed from our NFTs. That wallet that owns it ending in B8, B2 is my wallet right over here ending in B8, B2. So again, I can claim another one, and we set up a simple button here that claims an NFT from our contract. And there you go, you can see NFT has been claimed again. So there you go, we created a very simple button to claim an NFT. Now we can also read data from our contract as well. So what if we want to say display how much NFTs have been owned, right? Let's just hit claim NFT and claim one more. Let's just claim a few here. There you go. So if we check here, you can see here, I currently own 3 of the NFT. They're all stored in that same wallet. And what if I want to display how much NFTs are owned by the wallet connected? We can also read values from smart contracts as well. So coming back to my code editor here, let's just say I want to display the owned NFTs. So let's create a state variable here. We'll just call this NFT owned, and then we will use state. This is going to display us a string, and the default here is going to be 0. We'll import useState. Then we'll create our function here to get the number of owned NFTs. So let's just say get owned NFTs is our function here. We'll first make sure, hey, we need an address in order to check the owned NFTs of a connected wallet. So if account, sorry. So we need to make sure we have an account or a connected wallet. And then we're going to get the balance of the NFTs owned. And we can use the balance of from the extension as well. Again, we can use those extensions from the pre-built contracts. So I can say balance of And balance of, we need to say, hey, what contract are we checking it for, which is going to be our contract. And then the owner is going to be the account dot address, which is going to be the wallet address of the connected account. Then we're going to set NFT owned to the balance.toString. And there's our function right there that we can call. So we can then create a use effect here that when we get our wallet connected, it will check the get owned NFT. Also, when we after we execute our transaction here to claim an NFT, we can double check and check get owned NFT again to update the amount. So from here, we can then display our owned NFTs. So let's just right up here, we'll just say, hey, we need to have an account connected. If we don't have an account connected, we're gonna just display some text that says connect your wallet to claim an NFT. If we do have an account connected, we'll say NFTs owned, and then we'll put the amount here. So we'll put NFT owned, which is right over here, which we are updating when we get the balance of. So coming back to my app here, you can see NFTs owned is 3. If I try to claim another NFT here, get a transaction, let's confirm it. And there you go. You can see we confirmed and claimed our NFT, and we now have 4. So again, this is just keeping track of the NFTs that we own with the connected account here. So if I switch this over, let's switch accounts here. Let me just disconnect our wallet. Let me switch wallets here. We'll connect a new wallet. So there you go. We have a different same wallet here. Let's connect this new one here. There you go. We have a 0 in this wallet. So if we claim an NFT with this wallet here, we can hit confirm. We now updated, and you can see we now own 1 NFT in this wallet. So there you have it. That was a look at ThirdWeb's new Connect SDK. Again, test out the benchmarks and check out the features of the new Connect SDK, which is much faster and much smaller of a package compared to our older version. We also built a very simple NFT claiming application, and you can see how easy and quickly you can start building Web3 applications with the Connect SDK. So again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more tutorial videos just like this. If you need any help or support, we'll add a link down in the description below where you can open up a support ticket, and our support team can help you out and answer any of your questions. Again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video. Can't wait to see what you build with the new Connect SDK. And until next time, see ya.